We cannot let the week end without a trigger warning. As you know, trigger warning is a term that's come to be used when any content, whether it's of a course or anywhere else, is likely to trigger traumatized or traumatic feelings in the listener. Our trigger warning this week is that we cannot let the week go by without discussing the fatal shooting of two TV news reporters in Virginia who died Wednesday afternoon. The victims were Allison Parker, television reporter who was 24 years old, and Adam Ward, a cameraman, videographer, and photographer who was 27 years old. The trigger warning is that their death, of course, was violent and tragic. And the trigger warning is also this: we have too many triggers in this country attached to too many guns and too many unhinged people able to get them and use them and kill with them. And it's about time we did something about it. Now, we find in this horrifying Virginia shooting, I hope it is not a harbinger of the future, that the shooter, who clearly was had serious mental problems, was eager in the 5 hours that he attempted to escape, was eager to put video of the shooting up on Facebook, and that he was also apparently accessing Twitter, that this was a social media killing, that we've reached this. I hope this doesn't mean that we've reached the stage in our culture where everything, including acts as extreme and violent as this, are something we want to tweet and put out on Facebook and share with the world. I certainly hope that wasn't part of his motivation in doing this. You know, it's easy to draw superficial conclusions from a terrible killing like this, and I don't want to do that because we don't really know what goes on in the dark soul of a person who is as troubled as this shooter obviously was. But the shooter's name was Vester Lee Flanagan II. He broadcast as an on-air reporter, apparently using the name Bryce Williams, which is almost the archetypal TV journalist name. He clearly seems to have struggled with unfulfilled dreams, enormous resentments, and undoubtedly some form of mental illness. Now, he was able to get a gun. He was able to kill these people. I was perhaps reckless enough to watch the video myself. I will not describe it, except that, of course, it is a tragedy. Now, how grave is this tragedy? How much does it represent a larger trend? Well, looked at one way, it's part of a much larger trend. As Christopher Ingram reported in the Washington Post, August 26th was the 238th day of the year, and with the fatal shooting in Virginia, plus the shooting of 4 people during a Minneapolis home invasion on the same day, the number of mass shooting incidents in the United States rose to 247 for the year as of August 26th. Now, if you will notice one thing about those statistics, that's more than one mass shooting a day in 2015. Now, the definition of mass shooting used in this case is slightly different than that of the FBI's, because it was the incident, the definition used was any single incident in which at least 4 people were shot, including the gunman. The FBI says 3 or more people must be killed for it to be a mass shooting. I would argue that's a definition of mass murder. This broader definition suggests that there is something very intense going on in this country when it comes to the killing of people in groups rather than individually. Now, perhaps by coincidence, the day before this shooting took place, in fact, of course it must be coincidence, Melissa Jeltsin of the Huffington Post published a piece called "We're Missing the Big Picture on Mass Shootings." Now, this is important, too, because we hear about Incidents like the Virginia shooting of TV journalists, or the Virginia Tech shooting, or the theater shootings, the movie theater shooting, and so on. And there are many of those. But most mass shootings take place inside the home. They are not random. Most of the victims are women. For example, she describes a man who breaks into his ex-girlfriend's home in Houston and kills her, her husband, and her 6 children. Many mass, as she puts it, Melissa Jeltsin, the untold story of mass shootings in America is one of domestic violence. It is one of men, yes, mostly men, targeting and killing their wives or ex-girlfriends or families. Now, this is important because it is part of an overall sick culture of violence in this country and of misogyny that is inseparable from our easy access to guns in this country. Now, I do want to talk about our access to guns in this country. Why is it that after an incident in Newtown, a person like me can be described as I have been, as anti-gun? I'm not anti-gun. I'm pro-kindergartner. I'm pro-child. I'm pro-anybody who has been murdered innocently by the use of guns. Why do we say if we have gun control, only outlaws will have guns? That's not true. You can get guns legally under any form of gun control. I would argue that if you beat your grandmother to death with a hammer, as the mass shooter in upstate New York of a couple of years ago did, you should be disqualified from getting guns. But I would say that most people should be able to get guns. Now, statistics show that states with more guns also have more homicides. Why do people say guns make us safer? We already have more guns per capita than any nation on earth, and we also have the highest gun homicide rate of any developed nation. Are we safe enough yet? The only other country that feels the same way about guns as we do is Yemen, and Yemen is thinking twice and reconsidering its attitude toward gun control. We should do the same. I am Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.